Hello everyone, Giltar here with a model kit review. This time we'll be looking at the non-scale AV-98 Ingram 1 model kit from Kotobukiya's D-Style or Deformation Style model kit line. Now this is going to be a three-part review, and it might sound odd to have three parts devoted to what essentially appears to be an SD-styled model kit, but you'll see once I get through my review that this is a model kit that possesses some hidden engineering and design that might surprise a few of you out there. So in part 1, I'm just going to go over the model kit details and the accessories. In part 2, I'll actually be taking a page from Robert 184's playbook and go over the separated parts of the model and then assemble them for you guys to give you an idea of how it goes together, and I'll go over articulation there. And then finally in part 3, I'll go over the pros, cons, and my final thoughts of this model kit. Now I'm going to start off with a size comparison. As you can see, the Ingram 1 in the center there is pretty much a standard sized deformed or SD or super deformed model kit. It's just somewhat, slightly shorter than the RX-0 in destroy mode on the left side here, but the RX-0 is a little tall for the average SD kit. On the other side, we have the high-grade Universal Sentry RX-782 in 1:144 scale. It's about 5 inches tall, and as you can see, the Ingram 1 here is probably about roughly 3 inches tall at the top of its head. And finally, just for a large comparison point, I have the Master Grade RX-782 Gundam 1-year war version back there. Now this is a fairly recently released model kit. It came out in May of 2010. Normally it retails for 1,500 yen, or about almost $17 American at current exchange rates. Now the Ingram 1 mecha design comes from the Pat Labor series of anime that I think started maybe in 1988 or so. It's something that I've seen bits and pieces of before, but I honestly have very little knowledge of it, and I do plan on watching the movies and anime series, the TV series for Pat Labor, because it has an interesting concept behind it. I really do like the sort of more real robot designs of the various labor units. So yeah, I definitely plan on checking out that series. Now, to get into the information about the model kit, let me just put back the model actually for a moment and go over some of the packaging details of it. So starting off, I've got the sort of cover of the box here, which is pretty standard. Just some nice photography of the Ingram 1 model, fully painted there. Now this is a partially painted model kit, meaning some parts are painted accurately, but other parts are not, such as like the tips of the ears here are a sort of a light yellow color. On the model itself, they're still white. You have to paint them in yourself. There's some photos here demonstrating the articulation ability, close-up of the head sculpt. Some more basic photography information. There's actually some warning signs on the front saying it's got choking hazards because of the small parts. Now the funny thing is, I can't imagine any kid small enough to choke on those things would want to work on model kits, but you never know. Plamo and Gunpla enthusiasts are getting younger every day, it seems, which is a good thing, getting the new generation into this hobby of ours. Now next up, I want to get into just some of the runners, or all the runners rather, for the model kit. Now we have basically 5 runners that for the body, and then 3 runners for the polycaps. So the runners for the body are basically a white plastic A plate, B plastic here, B plate, black, C and D, white, and then the 3 polycap runners are basically a PC1 runner, which has some leftover parts, as you can see, and then 2 identical PC2 parts, or runners rather, with also some extra parts left over, which is nice because if you have any issues with either accidentally damaging the parts as you build it, or something happening down the road, you'll at least have some backup polycap joints if you ever need them. Now something I want to point out here is there is an interesting difference in the Kotobukiya design of the runners. compared to the Bandai design of their own SD model kit runners. As you can see, there's really no nub, so to speak, between where the sprue of the gate goes to the part itself. You basically have to be very careful in separating the parts from the runner, because there's really very little leeway for a mistake. So one thing, it doesn't bother me, but it is something that kind of annoys me that, Bandai really cut a corner here in their SD model kit part layout on the runners, and surprisingly Kotobukiya chose not to do that. And not to be disparaging of Kotobukiya, but they're not a company that I normally would laud or praise for their design of the way that they lay out their runners and of their model kit parts, because it's just most of the time they're okay, but nothing particularly great. But in this case, you can actually see on camera here a lot of the parts of the runner here show sprues with excess plastic, because this basically follows the standard layout and design of plastic model kit placement, where they do have an extra bit of plastic for you to clip off and sort of try to avoid damaging the parts. So kudos to Kotobukiya for not skimping out on that part. And this is something that probably a lot of people don't care about, but for me, I'm a details person, and a detail like this I actually pay attention to, so I do appreciate that design point from Kotobukiya. Now, getting into the instruction manual, well, even before that, I'm just going to show you guys an order form here to send to Kotobukiya if you ever need to get replacement runners. If you damage or lose something, you can mail this out to Kotobukiya. There's some prices for each runner here for you to pay, and there you go. Pretty standard. The instruction manual itself is pretty standard as well. There's some nice, photography. On the back page, there's just a color guide layout when you, if you should want to paint your model kit to get it accurate to the colors of the animation model. Inside, we just have a layout of the runners, a sort of diagram here, essentially a legend for the different symbols you may come across when assembling the model kit, and then a 3-page spread of instructions here of basically building the model. So nothing too advanced, but pretty good. Follows the standard of SD kits from Bandai. So next up, let's get into the accessories, and there really are only 2 accessories for the Ingram here. First, there's this, according to the information that I've looked up, this is supposed to be a 37 millimeter revolver cannon. It's basically a very large pistol. And then here is, and it sounds funny to me, but an anti-labor stun stick, which is basically a baton. Now, I don't believe the revolver here needs any painting to make it accurate. It's just a black revolver, from what I understand. However, the stun stick here, the baton, does need to be painted in order to make it accurate to the anime colors, but not a big deal. And for the model kit itself, as you can see, partly colored. The black parts are black plastic, but other parts like these gray areas in the joints, they are painted by Kotobukiya. These symbols here, numbers, and other little details, I think they're tampographed or somehow otherwise applied to the plastic parts. And one more thing I want to point out before I conclude part 1 here. Let me just find this. Here it is. I did find it kind of funny when you get the model kit. When you just first unbox it on this D runner, these 2 areas are empty, and what they're supposed to be for are 1/2 of each leg here on the bottom, the lower leg portions. And for some reason, these were pre-clipped and all set up and set aside for you. You don't actually have to clean them up. There's no nub marks, and so I found it kind of interesting that for some reason Kotobukiya took them off for you. For whatever reason. So I just wanted to point that out in case any of you guys buy this model kit and are wondering about that. It's just kind of odd, and I have no idea why that was done. So if any of you guys have any speculation or ideas, let me know in the comment section. So that does it for part 1 of the review. I'll be back in part 2 with a sort of walkthrough of the disassembled model kit. I'll assemble it for you guys and then demonstrate the articulation. So thanks for watching the review so far. I hope you guys enjoyed this information up to this point, and I'll see you guys in part 2 of the review.